Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. So in this video, I want to talk about the recent news that came out about Mohnish Pabrai selling out of the majority of his stake in Alibaba. Now this news probably caught a lot of people off guard, considering he was one of the uber bulls of Alibaba, constantly talking about how great a company it was and how the valuation was incredibly cheap. But despite this, in the third quarter, he sold out of the majority of his position. So in this video, I'm going to talk about why I actually wasn't really surprised by this at all. And then I'm also going to talk about why I think blindly following investors into stocks is generally a bad idea. So let's get started. All right, so here is a news report from yesterday. I think that's when the 13F filing came out, that Mohnish Pabrai sold out of most of his Alibaba position in the third quarter. So it says here he sold 77% of his firm stake in Alibaba, and he also bought more shares of Micron, which is one of his other positions, kept his serrated growth properties position unchanged. And so this news probably came as a huge surprise to a lot of people. There's a lot of people on YouTube that follow Mohnish Pabrai very closely, and a lot of them, I think, bought into this stock primarily because Pabrai entered a position and was talking about it so much. So let me know down in the comments, if you own Alibaba stock, let me know if this changes your opinion at all, the fact that Pabrai sold out of the position. Now, he isn't the only super investor to have bought into Alibaba. There's also plenty of others. One of them is Charlie Munger. And Charlie Munger not only didn't sell his Alibaba shares, he actually almost doubled his position in the third quarter. So sort of interesting how Pabrai talks about how him and Charlie Munger are pretty close friends and talk a lot. So it's pretty interesting how one doubled his position and the other one sold out of most of it. And so this article is talking about that. Munger's Daily Journal Corporation nearly doubled its stake in the Chinese internet giant Alibaba in the third quarter. And he now has about 18% of the Daily Journal's portfolio in Alibaba at a basis between 180 and 200 per share. So it's not great that Pabrai sold out seemingly only a couple quarters after getting in, but it's also pretty clear that he got out probably at a pretty big loss too. Now, another thing to talk about is how Mohnish Pabrai has given a lot of interviews over the past few months. It seems like almost every week there's a new one coming out, and almost every time he talks about Alibaba stock and why he likes the investment. So now here's just one clip I found on YouTube, so I'll play a part from this right now.
I mean, if you look at my filings, you can see that we have a position in Alibaba, and it's an incredible business. I mean, just if you look at Baba and Tencent and kind of where they're at, and the ecosystem and the moat and what they control, and all of that. Look at the tailwinds from China. I mean, there's a lot to me to like even more than the large U.S. tech. Just because I think that the tailwinds are so much stronger, and there's some serious barriers to entry. It's very cheap. I think Baba is one of the cheapest plays out there.
And so I think this potentially is a problem, and this is actually the reason why I'm not surprised that Mohnish Pabrai sold out of Alibaba. When you're a hedge fund investor, especially when you're a value investor, you don't want to be doing what everyone else is doing. So if you're a hedge fund investor, trying to buy a stock as it's falling, the last thing you would want to do is tell a bunch of other people to buy it too. And so that's why I've been pretty skeptical. I keep seeing these interviews of Mohnish Pabrai, and obviously nothing against him. He's obviously a great investor that has a incredible track record. But when he talks about Alibaba every single week and why it's such a great investment, right, you've got to start thinking, is there anything else to this? And in this case, there was. As he was giving all these talks, he was dumping his shares. And so we'll talk about the fundamentals of Alibaba. But that's just why I don't think it's ever a good idea to blindly follow super investors, because you never really know what they're thinking, right? A lot of the times they're going to say things in public, right, but often actually be doing the complete opposite of what they're saying. And again, I just think it's pretty common sense. If you're really trying to add into a position in a company, right, it doesn't really make sense to be talking about it. Now, again, Mohnish Pabrai is still a great investor. It seems like he sold out of this position and bought more Micron with it. So, time will tell. Maybe that will end up being a good move. And of course, I still think the fundamental case for Alibaba is still there. There's still plenty of great investors in the company. And so because of that, it doesn't change a whole lot for me. I mean, personally, I'm not invested in Alibaba. But who I think this does matter for are the people that just bought in because of this one investor that, entered a large position, constantly was talking about how great of an investment opportunity it was going to be. I think those are the people that are potentially going to be hurt with this, because where does this leave them? Now, if they bought in when Pabrai was first talking about it, they're probably down on the position, And now do they still have conviction to hold after the person they followed into the stock just sold out? And that's also why I think it's just a bad idea in general to copy super investors. I think looking at if there's any successful investors that own a particular company, right, I think that could be an important part of an investment thesis, but I don't think it should be the main factor in choosing a stock. Right? I think nothing beats your own conviction based on your own research. Again, because that's the tough question whenever you follow an investor into a stock. What happens when they sell? What do you do then? And in this case, they sell at a loss. So those are just my thoughts on that. In terms of Alibaba stock, the stock has rebounded a bit. They were at 140, they're now at 166. Now, I made a full video on why I'm not going to buy Alibaba stock. I'll put a card up to it right now if you haven't seen it. And basically I said at this valuation, there's probably a good chance that it'll work out decently or even great. And I looked at them for a while, but I just wasn't able to build up the conviction to make this a major position in my portfolio. There were also some concerns I had about the financials of the company. So again, you can check that out in that video I made on Alibaba. And there's one more thing I wanted to talk about well-known investors and hedge fund managers in general. And that is the fact that you and me, retail investors, we're their competition. I heard a very good interview from a hedge fund manager, and I wish I could find it so I could pull it up. But I remember the main takeaway that he said is, yes, there's always going to be a lot of investors that like to give back, that like to talk about what their thought process is, and like to give tips to help new investors. But at the end of the day, we're their competition, right? And they're going to put their own interest, and the investors into their fund, they're going to put their interest over retail investors every single time. And so even though I think, there is a lot to learn from investors that share, that are open and share a lot of what they do, I think it could potentially become dangerous to start thinking, that we're all on the same team, or, that they actually have an interest in, having you benefit. So those are my thoughts on Mohnish Pabrai, Alibaba, and cloning investors in general. Let me know down in the comments if you've ever copied a stock pick from a famous investor based on what they've done before. So that's it for this video. If you found value out of this, hit the like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you on the next video.